Now let's move to the application. Uh, the first part is exercise 6E, page 390. We'll start with the first exercise. Write down the quadrant and the associated acute angle when theta is. When I say acute angle, it means an angle less than 90 degrees. So when you locate the quadrant, you can easily find where is the acute angle. With the first angle minus 215. So first it's negative, it means I'm moving this way. So if I am standing here and I move till this one here, I'm still minus 180. So I didn't reach my point yet. Minus 215, it's somewhere here in this location here. So it means I'm in quadrant 2. So I am in quadrant 2. And then now to find the acute angle, it means I want this one. So now we are doing geometry. Let's forget about trigonometry. We are doing trigonometry. If I can find what is the value of this angle and I do 180 minus this angle, I can find the acute angle. So to be able to find the value of this angle, I know that all this part here, the red one is 215. I don't want to do the sign. It's 215. So how many is the range for the blue part? 360 minus 215. So it's 145 degrees. It means this part here, the blue one here, this angle here is 145 degrees. And I know that all this angle is 180. So how are we gonna find the acute angle here? It's 180 minus 145. So I can find that the acute angle is 35 degrees. Now I move to another angle. Minus 5 pi over 4. Guys, if you feel that you're lost with the radian, directly transform to the degree. Pi is 180. You can replace it by 180 and it gives me minus 225 degrees. So minus 225 degrees, also I'm in quadrant 2. I'm somewhere here. So to be able to find this angle here, my first objective is to find this big angle here. So it's 360, or here 2 pi minus 5 pi over 4. It's 3 pi over 4. And now to be able to find the acute angle, I do pi minus 3 pi over 4 and gives me pi over 4. It means that this acute angle here, it's pi over 4. Or also I can do all the calculation in degree. Move to part C. 7 pi over 2. If I use my calculator, it gives me 7 times 360 over 2. It's 630 degrees. It means it's more than a whole turn. It's bigger than 2 pi. So it means that I did perhaps 2 turns and then I did the angle. So I need to decompose it. So you need to think about the nearest number to 7. Divide by 2 gives me an even number. So it's 8. I cannot think about 6 because 6 over 2 gives me 3 pi and it's odd, it's not a whole term. So 8 pi over 2 minus pi over 2. It means it's 4 pi minus pi over 2. 4 pi, it means you did the two turns. It means I'm standing here, I did a turn and then another turn and then I did minus pi over 2. So I'm here. So I am here minus pi over 2. So it's on the edge here. So I'm on quadrant 4. And then what is my acute angle is minus pi over 2. Now let's move to 11 pi over 6. This one also, it's not bigger than 360, but I can decompose it, or I can either move in the positive. If I move in the positive sense, I am in quadrant 4. And if I decompose it, I can see that it's 2 pi minus pi over 6. So I did the whole turn and I went back. So I am in quadrant 4. So, and what is my acute angle? It's pi over 6. Part E, 564. Also, it's bigger than 360 degrees. So if I want to know how many turns this angle will give me, so I just divide it by 360. And it gives me 1.5 something. It means I have one full turn and then plus an angle. So it means I can decompose 564, 360 plus an angle. So plus what? Plus 204. 204, I'm in which angle? I'm on which quadrant? Quadrant 3. So it means I'm here. I'm here in this quadrant. So how I will be able to find this angle? So I can do 204 all this angle minus 180, and it gives me the acute angle that's still remaining is 24 degrees. Now I move to part F. Part F, minus 22 degrees. It's very easy. I'm in quadrant 4 and the acute angle is 22 degrees. 8 pi over 3. Also, I can decompose it. Or also, I can use a degree. It's your choice. So it's 2 pi plus 2 pi over 3. 2 pi, it's a whole turn. Then I did the whole turn and 2 pi over 3. So I am in quadrant 2. And to be able to find, I'm in quadrant 2. I am here, guys. And to be able to find the acute angle, I will do 180 minus the angle and gives me pi over 3. Now exercise 2. I need to complete the following table. So they gave me sometimes sine, cosine, need to find tangent and the angle, and we will see how to do it. For the first one, it's easy. I have sine and cosine. To find tangent, it's sine over cosine. And now to find theta, how are you gonna find theta? Sure, you're gonna use the calculator. You're gonna see first in which quadrant the angle is lying. So I have sine is positive, cosine negative. So sure, I am in quadrant 2. In quadrant 2, it means the calculator will not give me, the calculator all the time will give me the angle in quadrant 1. So if you do shift sign on the calculator 0.5, it's gonna give you 30 degrees. But I'm not in quadrant 1, because if really the angle is 30 degrees, it should give me sine and cosine positive. So how am I gonna find the angle theta? In quadrant 2, the angle is what? If I am here in quadrant 2, the angle is what? It's pi minus alpha, minus the angle alpha. So it's 180 minus 30, so angle is 150 degree. I move to the second one. I have the angle. Here it's very easy. The angle, I can see that it's in quadrant 4. So here directly, either I can do the calculator, and the calculator will give me, if I put cosine 11 pi over 6, it's going to give me a positive answer. And if I do sine, it's gonna give me the negative answer, tangent sine over cosine. Or if I look at it, it's pi over 6 is the sisters of pi over 6. So I can do it without a calculator. If I decompose 11 pi over 6, it's 12 pi over 6 minus pi over 6. So 12 pi over 6 means it's 2 pi, so it's a whole turn. So as I'm doing minus pi over 6, so I'm now in quadrant 4. It's here. And this is one of the special angles. Cosine, it's radical 3 over 2, and sine is minus half. And if I want to find tangents, it's sine over cosine. It's minus 1 over radical 3 or radical 3 over 3. Part C, I have sine positive, tangent negative, so sure cosine is negative. And if sine is positive and cosine negative, so I'm in quadrant 3. Excellent. How are you gonna find cosine? We know tangent is sine over cosine, and then cosine will be sine over tangent. I got the answer. Now, how are we gonna find theta? I will take the calculator and I'll do shift sign. It will give me 23 degrees. But is it the real angle that I need? No, I need an angle that lies in quadrant 2. So quadrant 2, it means what? If I am in, if this is 23 degrees, what is the angle related to 23 degrees that has the same sine and opposite cosine? It's pi minus alpha. It's 180 minus 23, so it gives me 157 degrees. Part D, I have cosine and tangent. To find sine, also tangent is sine over cosine. We cross multiply, we get the answer. They are all positive, it means I'm in quadrant 1. It's very easy. This is one of the special angles. So shift sine or shift cosine or shift tangent, and the answer will be pi over 4. The last one, exactly the same, but here what's the difference between this one and the preceding one, that I have cosine is negative and sine is positive. So it means I'm in quadrant 2. Excellent. So which angle that lies in quadrant 2 that, that has the same cosine as theta but opposite sign? It's pi minus theta, pi minus alpha, so pi minus pi over 4, so it's 3 pi over 4. Now we move to exercise that. So you have two methods, or we have the one that I told you in the preceding video, how to solve it sine equals sine and it's alpha and minus alpha plus pi minus alpha, or you can think about it verbal, yani mentally. So I will do it just for the first one. If I want to do it as I did in the preceding video, you just do shift sign on the calculator 0.6. It gives me 36.8. It means I'm now solving the equation sine theta is equal to sine alpha. So theta is equal, when I'm solving sine, which two angles they have the same sign? It's alpha and pi minus alpha. So I will solve theta is equal 36, or theta is equal pi minus 36 degrees. Or I can think about it mentally quickly. Sine is positive, it means I'm in quadrant 1 or in quadrant 2. So the calculator will give me in quadrant 1. How I will find the angle in quadrant 2? What is the relation between the angle in quadrant 1 and the quadrant 2? So it's alpha and pi minus alpha, and then you're going to get the same answer. We move to B. Cosine minus 2.6, it's impossible because we said unit circle. It means the maximum value that can cosine has is 1 and the minimum minus 1, and also for sine. So cosine and sine are all the time between minus 1 and 1. So this is impossible. Tangent. Also, I can think about it like this. The answer is negative. Okay, excellent. It means I am in quadrant 2 and in quadrant 4. Tangent negative, it means one of the sine cosine should be negative, so quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. If I take my calculator and I do shift tangent 2.36, it will give me an angle in quadrant 1. What is the relation? How I will find the related angle in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4? If I am in quadrant 1, this is alpha. In quadrant 2, it's going to be pi minus alpha, and the quadrant 4, it's going to be either I can write minus alpha or 2 pi minus alpha. It's your choice. So I take my calculator, I do shift tangent 2.36, it gives me 67 degrees. This angle is in quadrant 1, so it will not give me a negative tangent. The same angle that gives me the same answer but negative should be in quadrant 2 or in quadrant 4. So it's either 180 minus 67 or minus 67 or 360 minus 67. Now we move to exercise 4. It's easy peasy. So given that theta is obtuse, when I say obtuse, it means it's bigger, more than 90 degrees. And cosine is positive. Cosine is positive and obtuse, so where it could be? Cosine positive is all the time quadrant 1 or quadrant 4. In quadrant 1, the angle is acute. So we're going to be the angle in quadrant 4. Quadrant 4, it means sine is negative. So how are we going to find sine and tangent? We're going to use our famous formula, sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta is equal to 1. Solving for sine, 1 minus 9 over 25 gives me 16 over 25. So sine is plus or minus 4 over 5, but because we know that it's obtuse, so it should be in quadrant 4, so it should be bigger than, so it should be negative, so I'll take minus 4 over 5 for sine, and tangent is sine over cosine, it will give me minus 4 over 3. Now let's move to this exercise. 6f, it's all the same. So I want to solve also for the angle. So I need to find which angle gives me cosine 0.45, and then I see all the related angles that give me the same answer. Cosine is positive, it means I'm working in which quadrant? Cosine positive, I'm working in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. So the angle that I'm gonna give be exactly the same like the angle that gives me cosine 0.45 or the minus alpha, or also 2 pi minus alpha. So I take my calculator, I do shift cosine 0.45, it gives me 63.25. And which other angle has the same cosine? Which quadrant? Quadrant 4. How do we find in quadrant 4? Either I take minus alpha, so either I can write minus 63.25 or 2 pi minus alpha, so it gives me 296.74. So I have two answers, 63.25 or minus 63.25 or 63.25 and 296.74. We move to the second one. Tangent theta is equal minus 0.56. Excellent. Tangent negative, so I'm sure that I'm working in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. The calculator, if I do shift tangent 0.56, gives me all the time an angle in quadrant 1. Which angle? How you gonna find the angle that has the same tangent but it's negative? It's opposite. It's quadrant 2. If alpha is in quadrant 1, how do you find the angle in quadrant 2? So if I am here, this is the angle alpha. The other angle gonna be pi minus alpha. Quadrant 4, it's either minus alpha or 2 pi minus alpha. So that's gonna be either 180 minus 29, so 151 degree, or 331. Those are the same thing, but this is a positive angle and this is a negative angle. This one I'm going on the negative direction, the other one 333 I'm going on the positive direction. In the end, I'm ending to the same point. So either I can move like this and stand, this is my ending, or I can do like this, like a short cut. Exactly the same. 3 sine positive, it means quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. So shift sine 0.13 gives me 13.3. alpha and pi minus alpha. So it's 13.3 and 180 minus 13.3. 4. Cosine minus 2.15, impossible. Here it's an equation. I have cosine squared theta plus cosine theta is equal to 0. Guys, it's like I'm asking you to solve x squared plus x is 0. How do you solve it? You factorize x factor of x plus 1. Exactly the same, but here it's cosine. And then I have cosine theta is equal to 0 and cosine theta is equal to minus 1. Those are the particular angles that are on the axis. So cosine 0, it's 0, or I can say 2 pi. And when I say cosine minus 1, it's here. So it's, if I move like this, 3 pi over 2, and if I move like this, it's minus pi over 2. 6. What happened? Sorry, guys. Okay, 6, that's it. So here it reminds me of a quadratic equation. So as I have 2x squared minus 3x plus 1 is 0. Calculator gives me two roots, 1 and half. Be careful, it's not x is equal 1, it's cosine theta is equal to 1. Also the particular angle, so it's 0 or 2.